This is the story of a locked gate and intercepted delivery, and the exact moment Queen Camilla realised her crown does not grant her the keys to the royal treasury. In less than 24 hours, the carefully constructed illusion of Camilla's absolute commercial authority within the royal family was quietly and ruthlessly dismantled at the perimeter of Clarence House. What Queen Camilla just realised behind closed doors is that a title allows you to smile for the cameras and host the party, but true institutional power is forged in strict financial oversight, sovereign land ownership, and silent administrative control. Over the next few minutes, we are going to unpack the secret commercial coup she recently attempted under the guise of an emotional children's charity event, how Prince William uncovered the financial paper trail, the freezing institutional retaliation at the palace gates, and Camilla's devastating realization that despite sitting on the highest throne in the land, she actually owns absolutely nothing. To understand why this specific internal clash reached a boiling point, we must first look at the staggering 30-year manipulation that brought Camilla to this pinnacle of the British social hierarchy. For 3 decades, she played the longest, most meticulous game of reputational rehabilitation in modern history. She survived the bitter fallout of the 1990s, survived the tragic shadow of Princess Diana, and systematically worked to soften the public memory of her past. Camilla operated under the fundamental belief that she had Charles completely controlled, and for a long time she did. When she was officially crowned queen, she believed she had finally won. She believed that the title was an impenetrable shield operating under the illusion of absolute power. She began to push the boundaries of her position, steadily elevating her own non-royal children into the periphery of the crown's glow. She assumed that the title of queen granted her an equal share in the Windsor dynasty, a permanent structural authority that would allow her to enrich her own bloodline. But the fatal flaw in Camilla's architecture of power is that it is entirely dependent on a single man's heartbeat. She built an empire on borrowed land. That borrowed land became a battlefield during what should have been an untouchable moment of royal benevolence. Yesterday, Queen Camilla hosted a deeply emotional tea party and treasure hunt at Clarence House for children battling severe illnesses. Organised alongside the Dreams and Wishes charity and supported by the Grenadier Guards. To the public, it was a flawless display of sovereign empathy. The cameras captured the Queen smiling, interacting with sick children, and projecting an aura of comforting majesty. But behind the scenes, during a period of acute institutional vulnerability, Camilla's private office attempted to execute a highly sophisticated secret commercial maneuver. Driven by a profound commercial desperation to secure her family's financial future before her reign ends, Camilla attempted to use this tearful charity event as a backdoor for her son, the food critic and author Tom Parker Bowles. What appears to be true, according to internal palace leaks, is that Camilla's team quietly altered the logistical registries for the event, attempting to insert her son's culinary enterprise and associated PR teams as the exclusive catering and hospitality providers for the royal gathering. This was not a simple, harmless motherly favor. It was a calculated administrative trick designed to bypass the rigorous oversight of the Lord Chamberlain's office. By establishing her son's company as an official documented supplier for a sovereign engagement, she was attempting to quietly fast-track a lucrative royal warrant. The royal warrant is the ultimate seal of aristocratic commercial approval, a golden ticket that guarantees millions in brand value. Camilla was attempting to siphon the prestige in the commercial power of the crown into the pockets of the Parker Bowles lineage. She assumed the emotional weight of the sick children would provide the perfect public relations shield, firmly believing that no one in the palace bureaucracy would dare scrutinize the catering invoices of a charity tea party. She severely underestimated the cold forensic vigilance of Prince William's administrative apparatus. The Prince of Wales does not rely on drawing room gossip. His team relies on the meticulous monitoring of royal logistics and estate expenditures. The discovery of this secret commercial coup did not happen through an explosive family confrontation, but through a routine audit of the Clarence House vendor clearances. When William's financial oversight team cross-referenced the newly submitted logistics registries, the reality was immediate and chilling. This was a parasitic encroachment upon the sovereign brand. While Catherine, the Princess of Wales, continues her uncomplaining sacrifice and steadfast protection of the institution's dignity, Camilla was weaponizing a charity event to establish a commercial foothold for her non-royal son. The threat to the ongoing preservation of the true royal legacy became impossible to ignore. The response from the future king was executed with a cold, ruthless legality that used the very weight of institutional protocol as a weapon. Prince William did not cancel the Tea Party, nor did he allow the press to catch wind of the internal corruption, which would have ruined the day for the children. Instead, he utilized the silent execution of revenge. William quietly activated a strict binding administrative update regarding sovereign vendor approvals, dictating that all external commercial contractors for state-sponsored events operating on royal grounds must carry the joint security and financial clearance of the heir apparent's estate. What looked like a routine administrative update was actually a total dismantling of Camilla's commercial empire. The execution of this silent retaliation was breathtaking in its subtlety, resulting in an absolute visual humiliation for the Queen. On the morning of the event, as Tom Parker Bowles' commercial logistics team and delivery vehicles approached the secure checkpoints of Clarence House, they did not find a welcoming committee. They hit an invisible, impenetrable wall of royal protocol. The security staff and the Grenadier Guards operating under direct, binding orders from William's administrative office politely but firmly informed the external vendors that their clearance had been revoked. They were denied entry at the gates. Simultaneously, the official royal household catering team smoothly and seamlessly took over the logistical execution of the event, ensuring the charity guests noticed absolutely nothing amiss. As the reality of the intercepted delivery set in, Camilla experienced a wave of cold, suffocating panic. This is where the devastating contrast of Schadenfreude truly crystallizes. Camilla had to stand on the pristine grounds of Clarence House, maintaining her pristine aristocratic facade and smiling warmly for the cameras, while secretly knowing her son's commercial enterprise was being literally turned away by the royal guards just beyond the walls. Stripped of her illusion of absolute control, financially walled off by her stepson, and publicly disciplined without a single word being spoken, she realized the trap had snapped shut. Her administrative trick had not only failed, but it had permanently exposed her lack of true power. Terrified by the sudden collapse of her secret commercial pipeline, Camilla retreated to the one remaining card she had left to play. After the cameras had left and the children had gone home, she went directly to King Charles. She presented the restricted vendor logs and the intercepted delivery reports, demanding that he use his supreme sovereign power to crush William's administrative blockade. She demanded that the king grant Tom Parker Bowles the royal warrant immediately and aggressively enforce her absolute authority as queen over the royal households. The entire future of the internal royal hierarchy hung in the heavy, suffocating silence of the king's study, waiting for his response. When Camilla stood in the quiet sanctuary of the king's study, demanding that Charles use the absolute power of the sovereign to crush William's administrative blockade and grant her son a royal warrant, she expected immediate compliance. For 30 years, Charles had been her ultimate shield. He had fought his mother, his advisors, the British press, and his own children to force Camilla's acceptance into the royal fold. He had spent decades burning through his own political capital and public goodwill to protect her from the consequences of their shared history. Camilla fully expected that in this moment of acute administrative humiliation, Charles would summon Prince William and deliver a crushing reprimand. She expected the king to remind his heir that Camilla was the queen, that her family was now an extension of the crown, and that her commercial demands must be met. But she encountered something far more terrifying than anger. She encountered a devastating silence. What appears to be true according to those familiar with the internal dynamics of the king's household is that Charles simply refused to intervene. He did not yell. He did not defend his wife's family business. He looked at the intercepted delivery reports, sat in the suffocating quiet of his office, and did absolutely nothing. This was the psychological climax of Camilla's decades-long campaign for power, and it ended with a freezing realization. Charles is no longer the rebel Prince of Wales fighting for his mistreated lover. He is the king. And as the monarch, facing his own profound vulnerabilities and the fragile state of his reign, his primary overriding duty is the survival of the crown. Charles knows with forensic clarity that the wealth and prestige of the institution are its only true anchors. To override the Prince of Wales in order to secure a catering contract and a commercial royal warrant for Tom Parker Bowles would be an act of institutional suicide. To publicly or privately dismantle William's invocation of sovereign financial protection would signal a divided, chaotic monarchy that allows external family members to siphon off the brand's prestige for personal profit. In that singular moment of silence, Charles chose the integrity of the institution over the commercial ambition of his wife's bloodline. Camilla learned the hardest lesson of her royal life. The king will no longer save her family from the Prince of Wales. To understand why this administrative lockout is so permanently catastrophic for Camilla, we must examine the staggering reality hiding behind her royal title. The public sees a queen riding in gilded carriages and waving from the balcony of Buckingham Palace. She hosts grand charity events and moves through the historic corridors of Clarence House as if she owns them. But behind closed doors, the forensic financial architecture of the firm tells a remarkably different story. Her secret maneuvering with the charity event was never just about a tea party. It was a frantic, calculated attempt to secure a permanent financial foothold and commercial legitimacy for her son before her ultimate protector is gone. She knew that without King Charles. She would instantly become a guest in a house owned by a man who holds all the actual capital. Prince William is not just the heir to the throne, he is the landlord. He owns the Duchy of Cornwall, the billion-dollar real estate empire that funds the monarchy's private endeavours and operational costs. Camilla possesses no independent constitutional funding and no vast ancestral properties of her own to fall back on. She cannot grant her son a royal warrant, a lucrative estate contract, or an official palace vendor license without the explicit approval of the duchy and the joint administrative officers. William holds the keys to the kingdom's treasury, and he has legally, quietly, and permanently locked her family out of the vault, as Camilla's shadow commercial empire was quietly dismantled at the gates of Clarence House. The physical space within the palace began to immediately reflect the new order. What viewers and royal analysts have noticed in the hours following this internal crisis is a profound, subtle shift in how protocol is being weaponized. The consequences of this administrative blockade extend far beyond a single charity event. There has been a noticeable change in vendor access across all royal spaces. The privilege of utilizing sovereign properties for private Parker Bowles commercial ventures has been permanently restricted. Any future involvement of Camilla's extended family in royal logistics must now be routed through a grueling approval process managed entirely by William and Catherine's administrative teams, treated no differently than any external corporate applicant. Amidst this silent institutional reckoning, the presence of the Princess of Wales has become the ultimate undeniable contrast. Catherine did not need to issue a statement condemning the commercial exploitation of a charity event, and she did not need to demand respect. She simply allowed the massive, quiet weight of her own track record to protect the institution. While Camilla scrambled in commercial desperation to elevate her non-royal lineage and secure brand deals, Catherine emerged as a portrait of freezing aristocratic restraint. Catherine does not need to use her royal status to enrich her family, because she understands the fundamental difference between public duty and private enterprise. She demonstrated that uncomplaining sacrifice, fierce protection of the bloodline, and steadfast loyalty to the crown will always outmaneuver the unchecked ambition of outsiders. She does not need to fight Camilla for dominance, because her husband has already engineered the ultimate checkmate. The boundary has been drawn in permanent ink. The true royals remain on the inside protecting the treasury, and the liabilities are managed from the outside. This brings us to the deeper, tragic meaning of this entire crisis. Camilla spent 30 years carefully clawing her way to the very top of the British social hierarchy. She endured intense public hatred, she orchestrated a masterful public relations rehabilitation, and she successfully convinced Charles to place the highest crown in the land upon her head. She believed that reaching the summit meant she would finally be safe, that she could secure her family future and elevate her children to the same untouchable financial heights. But what this story undeniably proves is that the crown on Camilla's head is entirely hollow. She is surrounded by the trappings of unimaginable power. Yet she is paralyzed by the commercial reality that she is merely a temporary tenant in William's empire. She played a 30-year game of chess, sacrificing everything for the ultimate title, only to realize too late that she cannot bring her family business ventures across the board. Camilla is now trapped in a gilded cage of her own making, sitting next to a king who will no longer defend her commercial schemes, walled off from the royal billions and forced to watch her family live under the absolute, unyielding authority of the next generation. The era of the Shadow Queen attempting to commercially exploit the monarchy is effectively over. If you want to continue unpacking the silent warfare, the hidden administrative maneuvers, and the psychological power dynamics of the modern British monarchy, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We will continue to pull back the curtain on the illusions of power, one subtle detail at a time. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next analysis.